Hello, this is Wicked, and this is my self-discovery story. I'm going to try to keep this in a nutshell, as YouTube's being well, I don't know if it's the app or anything, but anyways, sorry. Anyways, so it started when I was 13 years old. I remember around my 13th birthday, my mom started saying, let's start fitting in. I didn't want to fit in and sell my soul to the devil. It was at that exact time of my life when my friend Anna Hamster, I wonder how she's doing, but anyways, who started going goth. Like she was going to start wearing black lipstick and stuff like that, like what I'm doing, but at a more higher pace than I am, obviously. I'm just doing the hair and makeup, the piercings and tattoos right now, but anyways, so with that, I ended up realizing when she was starting her goth journey, and I don't usually get swayed by very many people in my life, but in this case, this swayed me in a way that was kind of in a good way. By the time I got into high school and before my father got interested in my ancestry and was telling me about my ancestry, my father didn't really like piercings or tattoos, and he had to deal with the fact that I was stretching my earlobes, as you can see. So that was step one, was first see my friend turn goth and then stretch my earlobes. As you can imagine, I would soon start going on the piercing and tattoo kick when I was younger, a lot younger, but that'll be another story. So with Anna's guidance, I was able to go to great lengths to be goth. As far as I was concerned, when I was 28, I started getting my first tube of black lipstick that really didn't look any different than this. Maybe a little bit more expensive. Anyways, so my parents objected to that. They objected to me stretching my earlobes in the first place. Well, I can say that I have very good convincing abilities, if that's even a word. And my parents didn't like the fact that I was able to sway them into this, but I was able to be swayed. And then I was able to be actually interested in going into more alternative looks. I tried shaved head many times, even here where I live now, when my parents are obviously in the spirit realm. I've tried shaved heads, that didn't work. I've tried different alternative hairstyles, like the mohawk for one, although that took a lot of convincing from my mother. She wasn't gonna fight me in a public place, but that's my winning battles, was half these transformations, like my ears were turning into public transformations, like they came public before she knew about them. And this was after the "you better fit in" topic that I was dealing with in 7th grade when I was 13, and then again when I was in 8th grade. It wasn't exactly my cup of tea to deal with her "you better fit in." Soon she would start resisting this idea of me fitting in. Well, she started to resist at first that I was of alternative personality. Not to be misconstrued with the dark triad, but I'm just a really randomly unique person. And it was just after my first depressive episode, when I was in the 11th grade, 4 years after You Better Fit In, that she started to realize that I was serious about this goth thing, as well as my ancestors. My ancestors were one to stretch their earlobes and pierce themselves and do tattoos. So you can imagine that I was going to end up, obviously, with a couple of these things. I'll do a tattoo tour next time. And there you go. Anyways, so my mom stopped resisting. By the time she stopped resisting, it was me, Anna, and Nils. Nils was a preppy kid, Anna was a goth, and I was just semi-goth. Anyways, the idea that I was semi-goth was starting to grow on my mother. The idea that I was going to be LGBTQ, well, I didn't choose to be that. It happened. I'll tell you more about that later in the video, but anyways, she ended up having to accept the fact that, yes, I am a bit off the beaten path. And when she finally accepted, that's when she strayed from her marriage. I don't know why, but she just did. Not going to speak ill of the dead, but that's basically what she did. So, and that caused a lot of tension in the house. Not my looks, not my gender, or whatever, but it was just the idea that we were butting heads over the guy that she was seeing on the internet. She was not a nice person in the end. She was not, I must say, unfortunately. And that she ended up, you know how karma turns on you when you turn on the people that you care about. So you can imagine that she was not very well liked after the end, except by her own sister, who I'm not going to say very much there. But she was a toxic woman, I'll say that to be polite to the dead. I'm not going to say very much about this. Except it drove me to get the hell out of my own childhood home. A home I wanted to stay in until I was good and ready to leave, but I guess I had no other choice. And then I ended up moving to where I live now, where I'm creating this video. I'm not going to say what the address is. I'm not going to say where my bed is or my living room is. You are going to have to figure that one out yourself. Use your fucking imagination and don't. So, I was interested in goth culture for a long time. It wasn't until recently that I deep dived it, got into, like 2 years ago I got my first studded rivet collar, which I should wear sometime. Also, I tried piercing myself with those goddamn piercing kits from Amazon. You can imagine how that went well. And basically, it was a real shit show with the piercing kit, trying to convince people that I pierce myself instead of spend the money. And really, obviously, fate convinced me to spend the money on tattoo artists and piercers, and I'm very glad that they did. Very glad that fate did, although it nearly cost me my life. I almost had a bit of a staph infection, and you can imagine I was whiter than I am now. Like, I was like white as this shirt. So I was really getting into the alternative look. You can imagine that. And the alternative look was, for me, was goth. It had, most of it has to do with music. Some of it has to do with the way I look. And most of it is my personality. I'm just a unique person. If you've ever been goth, or you are goth, or you want to be goth, which I hope you do, be goth or semi-goth, it's a very unique experience, very unique, very interesting, very intriguing, and it's very unique because you get to meet a lot of unique people, a lot of like-minded people and stuff. Now, I used to be doing these mindfulness, still do this mindfulness breathing, and my favorite exercise, and this is a way of honing your clairvoyance, is the orange tree. What you do is you close your eyes, try or not, depends on how comfortable you are in your surroundings. Now you picture this orange tree. Do you see the oranges? And as you touch one of the oranges, you notice it feels like a... What does it feel like to you? What does it smell like to you? Try to manifest the smell, the texture of an orange. Try to feel the rough bark on the tree trunk and stuff. So I did that a couple of times and it worked. Actually worked as a mindfulness thing. It also worked as a clairvoyant thing. So it was very interesting. It was meant to help with clairvoyancy. Not buoyancy, voyancy, like as in psychic abilities. That being said, I have a little bit of that. So this is my favorite mindfulness technique. It actually does work because you can actually visualize a tree, feel the rough texture of the bark, the peculiar basketball-like feeling of the oranges and stuff. It's kind of interesting. You have to use your imagination and deep dive this. So, other than the basketball, what does these oranges feel like and stuff? And what do they smell like? And what's the texture of the leaves and stuff? You can imagine. Imagine the sun shining through the leaves and stuff. Is it night, day? You get the drift. So I've been doing that for about 5 years, these mindfulness activities. And it led to me discovering that I'm more goth than semi-goth. I know I look more semi-goth right now because I have my PJs on. Also, I am non-binary. This is something that it didn't come up like a few minutes ago. It didn't come up an hour ago or a day ago or a few days ago or a week or months. This has been something I've been ruminating for the past 5 years. Who the hell am I? Where do I stand in the world? Obviously, I'm going to pick the most unique answers. Non-binary and goth. Of course, I do acknowledge what God gave me as far as my body parts. That being said, that's at the end of the day. During the day, I am who I am, take it or leave it kind of thing. Usually people take it and run with it, which is very good. Most people don't take, some people don't take it and they leave it, or they just go like this and say, get the hell out of my life, you weirdo. Stuff like that. But this journey started with mindfulness. It actually started because my mother didn't want me to be me. She wanted me to be like Britney Spears. Something I despise is looking like someone else that isn't like you. Like, I was not meant to have blonde hair and blue eyes. That's recessive genes, which I might talk about in another day. But anyways, you can imagine that it wasn't my cup of tea. I wasn't meant to like boys at that age. I wasn't meant to like makeup, that specific type of makeup or what have you, or this Y2K aesthetic. Unless it was goth, I didn't go for it. So it was very interesting that this was about 20 some odd, 23, 23 years ago. 23 years in the making. It took a lot of rough times, a lot of rough tumbles. You can imagine you don't get a gold medal without getting a few scuffs on your body, or bumps in the nose or on the head. So you can imagine I did not get out of this emotionally or physically intact. Obviously, as you can see, right there. Now, I do have mental illness. This is what started me to do mindfulness, was meant because I have certain mental illnesses, OCD particularly, and a little bit of an anger issue. I have an attitude. That being said, I don't usually telegraph that. At one point I thought I had PTSD because the anger was so boiling hot angry. So I was so angry that I thought I had PTSD. And it took a psychiatrist to say, psst, you don't have PTSD, you just simply have OCD, and that is manageable if you want it to be manageable. Obviously, I'm trying to mitigate a lot of things, sometimes with more success than other times. And this is all because of mindfulness, and as well, that wasn't me farting. Excuse me. It wasn't me farting. The idea that YouTube becomes a therapy, well, that started a long, long time ago. That being, it was when I was like about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Actually, 2 years ago, because I remember I was meeting my boyfriend that same year. I ended up starting this thing called Siren Head Makeup on YouTube. It was a channel. I would do my YouTube channel, I do my makeup and talk about a certain creepypasta, and I found this to be very soothing, to the point where my doctor one time tried to go it alone without a psychiatrist to lower my pills. Obviously that didn't work, but I was able to stabilize, again, through YouTubing. I've been doing YouTubing on and off for the past 2 years, more off than on, until I finally found my niche, which is science, art, not art, science, goth, life, and mental health. You can imagine I talk about biology, physics, and chemistry, as well as stuff that's heavy on my noggin, as Bailey Sarian would say, and stuff like that. That being said, this idea that what brought me back to goth, what took me from goth was my parents. What brought me back was mindfulness, and the idea that, hell, I should be who I am, and the nostalgia of it, like, my friend was goth, I should be. She's not anymore. It was a phase for her, but it's certainly not for me. And I still am goth, even though after I've done all these, went through all this turmoil, I'm still goth, because I still listen to a lot of these. Like, for example, there's Factory of Dreams, Nirvana, I don't know what to classify that, rock. All this rock and post-punk and punk and rock and industrial, I've always been interested in it. It was just a matter of time that something would tip the scale again, and that would be mindfulness. So I tried mindfulness again and again until I finally got the hang of it. But I didn't know that I was going to find myself again back in the goth world, as well as being a non-binary, which is fine. I don't mind either one. So that is basically how I was. It started off with, first it started off with a detrimental thing, like, you should fit in more, and then it led to a mental health journey. That mental health journey went inwards. Instead of in here, it gone into here, and it turned into something else that was like self-discovery. I wanted to learn every inch of my soul, my personality, my mind. And this led to me being goth. This led to me LGBTQ, particularly non-binary. I'm also bi-pansexual, something I also discovered while doing the mindfulness and through learning about myself through mindfulness and stuff. So this was very interesting for me to see. And as I said, if it weren't for mindfulness, I'd probably be wearing a skirt. And I would be wearing red lipstick, god damn it. I know I've worn red lipstick in the long run, but it doesn't suit my face. Would have different hair. Ugh, I would just imagine that I'd look like everyone else, and that would disturb the shit out of me. So, that being said, if you like what you see, and I'll mention this more about this later, feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button. I'll see you later. Talk to you. Bye.